Your imagination has to be bigger than the room, bigger than the building, bigger than the sky, because if you keep the imagination alive, everything is possible.
That's right.
When you limit your imagination, nothing becomes as possible as it could be. So,
now,
yeah.
You know, I'm a former prosecutor.
Yeah.
And there were some other headlines that came out. And I was very upset about it.
Yeah.
Because it was unnecessary, and you don't do that on that special night.
Yeah.
Especially for what I read about.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna ask you is, there was an incident at the Grammys. It led to you being taken out in handcuffs and arrested.
That single answer was enough to light the fuse. Killer Mike, rapper, activist, and fresh off 3 Grammy wins, had come to The View expecting a celebration. Instead, he found himself grilled by Sonny Hostin, who pushed him on politics rather than music. And the moment he refused to play into the script, things spiraled. Sonny's sharp reaction, Mike's defiant pushback, and Joe Rogan's blistering commentary later on combined into something bigger than a daytime TV spat. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong, it was a collision of celebrity, politics, and media theater. What follows is based entirely on real footage. And that's just the beginning. Because what came next had Sonny Hostin erupting, Killer Mike standing his ground, and Joe Rogan pulling no punches against The View.
Biden saying you weren't ready to endorse him yet. What's your holdup there?
What's my holdup? Well, first of all, I think everyone should focus on hyper-local. We get caught up in the soap opera of federal elections, and that's fine. But if you are concerned with the federal election, you don't know who your city council or your wardsman is, you don't know who your mayor is, and you don't have a good list of state representatives or governor, then you're just a part of whoever wins the Super Bowl or fanfare. So my most important election is going to be in about 1.5 years for who's my mayor going to be. I think that Andre Dickens is doing a great job around housing in Atlanta, and I don't want that to be lost. In terms of nationally, I'm just kind of doing what my grandfather said, staying out of white folks' business and watching what happens. You know, I'm going to see what happens. If there's a candidate that pops up around September, October that needs a push that's really in policy-wise is good for us, going to jump up. But for right now, I just don't want to be involved in the soap opera because I'm much too concerned about what's going on in Atlanta.
Imagine it. A man who just made history at the Grammys, seated in front of a panel that seemed more interested in headlines than his music. Sonny's eyes narrowed, the question loaded. It wasn't about art, it was about politics, about loyalty, about who he would or wouldn't endorse. Mike's reply landed like a counterpunch, almost as if he knew the trap had been laid and just as quickly disarmed.
But let me tell you this.
Not supportive
some of his policies.
That's some misinformation. You can not like me, but don't lie on me. I saw someone I really respect, a black woman who's a commentator.
So you don't support him,
and
you
she
like
said,
his policies.
Well, I support
some specific ones he named.
Beyond it, he's the governor of my state, so I have to be involved with him because I can't divorce myself. But let me say this. If you criticize someone, don't lie. I'm not going to not have dinner with the king on behalf of my people. I have to do that.
Let me just point some of Biden's achievements out for the black community, right?
Moments like this don't come often. Stick around and hit subscribe to see how it all unfolds. Gasps rippled through the audience, as if the stage had shifted into a battlefield where one wrong step could end a career. But Mike didn't stumble. He stood tall, voice steady, almost daring anyone to twist his words further. Later, online forums lit up. Was this defiance or diplomacy? Some said he outplayed Sonny at her own game. Others whispered the hosts had walked right into a moment that would haunt reruns.
Possible.
You have to. You have to keep whatever 9-year-old, 12-year-old, 15-year-old is in your head, keep that child alive. No matter what you see in the mirror, you're still that child. And your imagination has to be bigger than the room, bigger than the building, bigger than the sky, because if you keep the imagination alive, everything is possible.
That's right.
When you limit your imagination, nothing becomes as possible as it could be.
That's when the tone flipped. What began as a Grammy victory lap turned into a political cross-exam. The questions weren't about music anymore. They were about Joe Biden, endorsements, and party loyalty. Was this really an interview or a setup waiting to happen? Stick around, because Mike's answer didn't just dodge the trap. It lit the fuse for everything that followed.
You got some attention recently for being somewhat critical of President Biden, saying you weren't ready to endorse him yet. What's your holdup there?
What's my hope? Well, first of all, I think everyone should focus on hyper-local. We get caught up in the soap opera of federal elections, and that's fine. But if you are concerned with the federal election, you don't know who your city council or your wardsman is, you don't know who your mayor is, and you don't have a good list of state representatives or governor.
It was supposed to be simple. Celebrate a Grammy win, toss in a quick question, watch the guests stumble. But when Sonny pressed him on why he hadn't endorsed Biden, the trap snapped shut on the wrong target. Mike didn't apologize, didn't squirm. He calmly reminded them that real power isn't in Washington sound bites. It's in who runs Atlanta, who manages schools, who writes local laws. To him, cheering for federal politics without knowing your own mayor was like watching the Super Bowl without knowing the rules of the game.
And to her, there was a study that was done recently about left-wing authoritarianism and the way certain people behave. And that it's like a bunch of different psychological conditions that they're almost indistinguishable from like horrible narcissism, horrible like psychotic behavior, like what their conclusions were. But at the fringes, when people, what happens is when you have groups that are ideological groups, whether it's the left or the right. Yeah. You're going to get people that just join that group that are absolutely insane. Yeah. And if you don't call it out, then you have a giant problem because people are going to associate you with whatever the worst aspects of your like right-wing Proud Boys.
For a beat, the panel froze. Then nervous laughter, scattered applause because it was clear the script had flipped. Later, Rogan would frame it bluntly. When shows chase partisan drama, they attract the loudest, most extreme voices and end up judged by them. Watching the exchange back, it felt less like a Q&A and more like a plot twist in a political thriller. The guest who was supposed to be cornered had turned the stage into his own courtroom, and the jury audience at home wasn't siding with the hosts.
It brings us back to haters. Yeah. They can get inspiration from people. You get juice.
Yo, shouts out to that lady who's Emmy nominated that hates me. God bless, God bless your soul, woman. I had never thought about winning an Emmy in my life, but because you hated on me when I got. And she hates me for the most ridiculous reason. God bless her soul. She hates me just because I'm not a Democrat, do-boy. You know what I mean? Like I've had Democrats I like and I push for them, especially locally. But I'm sorry, lady, I can't be a do-boy. And God bless me to fuck around and get rich.
He even pointed to Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp, a Republican, crediting him for expanding the Hope Scholarship and backing vocational programs. In a city where too many young men drift without options, Mike framed it as a win that couldn't be ignored. Then, with a grin, he added how even the critics had fueled him. An Emmy-nominated commentator hated him for not marching in step, and somehow that spite had pushed him toward more success. And that's when Sonny snapped. The questions stopped sounding curious and started sounding like accusations. The room braced. This wasn't just debate anymore. It was about to blow up. What did Sonny fire back with, and how did Mike turn it on its head? You'll want to see this part.
But let me tell you this.
Not supportive
some of his policies.
That's some misinformation. You can not like me, but don't lie on me. I saw someone I really respect, a black woman who's a commentator.
So you don't support him,
and
you
she
like
said,
his policies.
Well, I support
some specific ones he named.
Beyond that, he's the governor of my state, so I have to be involved with him because I can't divorce myself. But let me say this. If you criticize someone, don't lie. I'm not going to not have dinner with the king on the behalf of my people. I have to do that.
Let me just point some of Biden's achievements out for the black community, right?
The tension that had been building finally cracked. Sonny leaned in, her voice sharp, accusing Mike of losing credibility the moment he praised Georgia's governor. To the audience, it felt like the crossfire had just gone live. But Mike didn't flinch. He fired back with the calm of a man who had already rehearsed this battle in his head. You can dislike me, but don't twist my record. He reminded her and the viewers at home that he had stood shoulder to shoulder with Stacey Abrams, with Democratic mayors, with state representatives. The list was long enough to silence any claim of betrayal.
I don't take money from any politicians or political party. So if you see me stand next to someone, it's because I really believe. And if they don't convince me to believe, I'm not going to stand next to them, right? She wanted me to stand next to somebody. I'm like, sorry, lady, I've had some conversations with her. I've tried my best, but I'm not hating, but it's just ain't my thing. But this chick was just like, I'm going to use my platform and I'm like, you don't really have a platform?
Yeah.
But in her bio, she's an Emmy nominee.
The line landed with a mix of laughter and applause, the kind of reaction that made the panel shift uncomfortably in their seats. Online, clips spread fast memes, headlines, hot takes. Was he justifying pragmatism or rewriting the rules of loyalty? Either way, he had turned a cornering question into a declaration of independence. The kind that leaves opponents shaking their heads, and audiences replaying the clip to catch every word. But the real twist came when Joe Rogan weighed in. His take on Sonny and on The View itself wasn't just another opinion, it was a teardown waiting to happen. What came out of his mouth is the part no one saw coming.
And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
View has to be if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television.
It's fucking hilarious.
For Rogan, the moment wasn't complicated. He looked at Sonny's exchange with Killer Mike and saw the same formula that had played out for years. A panel operating inside its own bubble, insulated from dissent, performing outrage rather than inviting debate. He called it what many had whispered, a program designed less to inform and more to provoke. A place where a token conservative was invited only to be shouted down, where serious issues got flattened into viral clips for the next morning's feed. And then came the jab that stuck, describing the whole thing as a wild henhouse, the kind you watch not for insight, but for the noise.
The real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point. Most of those people can't leave the house. I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. And they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her. It is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested hen house.
and at the same time, it seemed like the most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
Yes.
The reaction online was immediate. Some laughed, others admitted it sounded uncomfortably true. And then Rogan added the twist, reminding viewers of an old episode where Trump himself had once been warmly embraced on that very stage, hugged and cheered before politics made him the villain. It was hypocrisy laid bare. And suddenly the View's polished set looked more like a stage play with a script that changed depending on who was winning in the polls.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I wanted to play this, but we decided we shouldn't play it. We don't want anybody to have any sort of a way to get it down. The episode of you when you were on The View, when you were running for president.
Right. Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star. But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to.
You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
Please let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump. That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
We're so happy to have you. Whenever you're on with us, we're very happy. We love it.
They were talking about you in such a favorable light. The audience was cheering, and then you actually started winning in the polls, and then the machine started working towards you.
Joe Biden knows how to do this. Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention...
Rogan's critique cut deeper when he brought receipts. He recalled the day Trump walked on set years ago greeted with hugs, smiles, even called our friend Donald Trump. The crowd roared with approval. Fast forward, and the same stage now painted him and Melania as villains. Rogan let the contrast hang, then laughed. To him, it wasn't politics. It was theater.
And Sonny decided to take up a few minutes of that precious 8 minutes and attack me as someone who's been co-opted by the right and someone who's a charlatan. And
did she use the term charlatan?
She did. And it's funny because I actually didn't notice it in real time. I kind of went in one ear and out the other. But
how did she say it? Do you remember what
she said? Something like, you know, a lot of people in the black community, implicitly herself included, think that you've been co-opted by the right and that you're a charlatan.
Well, it's a dumb way of addressing a thing, and to immediately say that someone's been co-opted with no evidence whatsoever. There's nothing about anything that you say that seems right-wing. You know, you're just objectively looking at these subjects and giving a very intelligent
And then came the knockout line, calling the show a rabid henhouse, a place people love to hate watch, more circus than commentary. It wasn't just a dig at Sonny, it was a teardown of the entire format. For longtime viewers, it forced an uncomfortable question. Had The View become less a talk show and more a machine for outrage?
If you ask me, you are the person who put Bernie Sanders on a national level. And I think we failed Bernie Sanders tremendously by not, getting behind him. And the only reason I didn't get behind him the way that I wanted to is because people told me he couldn't win.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Like the only person that believed in him in that way was you and Senator Nina Turner.
Yeah.
And so,
and people still make us suffer for that till this day. I believe she should have a national presence.
Oh, absolutely.
She should literally be the leader of the National Progressive Party.
Absolutely.
She is not. And Teslin has said it. And Teslin, to the point, she beef with the OG Bernie. She called him Bernard sometimes. She's mad because she's like, she should be even on tour.
The clash with Sonny left the studio buzzing, but Mike didn't stop there. In later interviews, he explained why he refuses to wear a party jersey. He admitted he once held back his full support for Bernie Sanders, not because he doubted the man, but because the system told him Sanders couldn't win. We failed him, Mike reflected, almost with the weight of a guilty conscience.
I say in this crazy-ass country, pay attention to the people who have no chance of winning sometimes, because they're gonna be some truths told. Like, no matter what you feel about Trump, there was a moment in that debate, Chappelle talks about it, when Trump said, of course these loopholes exist. They exist. He was talking to Hillary.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah, I'm gonna take advantage of the loophole.
Yeah.
Because they also exist for the people who are doing it in your campaign. I was like,
yeah,
finally.
Yes.
A member of the oligarchy class says, yeah, motherfucker, we're cheating.
Yeah.
And I was like, at that point, Americans should have said hard reset.
Yeah.
Like, they literally should have said pre-Eisenhower, hard reset. We're gonna reform all this shit. The money's gonna work different. None of us said a goddamn thing. And you know why? Because we're all complacent in this.
And here was the twist. Mike wasn't pledging loyalty to any flag or party. He was pledging to the people who have to live with the consequences. Whether it was pushing Bernie Sanders onto the national stage, working with Abrams in Georgia, or acknowledging a policy win from Kemp, the principle was the same. Don't worship politicians, use them. Don't play for the team, play for the community.
But we also can't have situations where people profit off people being incarcerated.
Yep, and that's what we have in this country now.
We're treating human beings like they're batteries.
Yeah, because they are
batteries to generate money,
and we're not putting them out better.
And we're not putting them out better.
You look at other prisons from smaller European countries. They're damn near like college dorms. And I'm not talking about just the amenities, which are better, but they put them out smarter. They put out carpenters. They put out mechanics. I just watched some story where the prisoners have a fucking print shop. They have a print shop where they're printing stuff. Why aren't we doing that? Like in DeKalb County, I think they had a GED program, DeKalb County Jail, but even in state prisons, the young men, mostly young black men that we're sending into jail, they have no skills. They've made stupid emotional decisions. We have no psychotherapy for them. We have no trade skills for them virtually.
It wasn't the language of a pundit. It was the language of a builder, someone who treats politics not as theater, but as brick and mortar. And that left the audience wondering, maybe this wasn't just a Grammy winner talking policy. Maybe it was a blueprint for something bigger.
Getting attached to ideologies is always a bad idea, particularly when we, like human beings, in America have two choices.
Yeah.
You have two choices. You have the left and the right. And people just they adhere. They adhere to whatever this side's doing because they want them to win.
Yep.
And then you have some weird problematic figures like Trump who comes along.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of never-Trumper Republicans.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do.
From a Grammy celebration that turned into a political ambush, to Sonny Hostin's fiery pushback, to Joe Rogan tearing down The View as little more than a chaos factory, this story wasn't just about one clash on daytime TV. It was about the bigger game America keeps playing. Killer Mike showed he won't be boxed in by party labels, choosing instead to work with whoever delivers for his community. Rogan reminded us that when politics becomes pure theater, it's easy to forget the people it's supposed to serve. And Sonny's reaction? Proof of just how fragile the line is between tough questioning and outright spectacle. This video is built on commentary from publicly aired segments and verified media reports involving Sonny Hostin, Joe Rogan, Killer Mike, and related events. All information is sourced from public domains, only no private or speculative claims are included. The content follows YouTube's community guidelines and fair use policy, created solely for commentary, critique, and analysis. If this breakdown offered a fresh angle, make sure to subscribe. The next chapter could be even bigger. Thanks for watching.